May class, and welcome to your next wider curriculum lesson. In the previous lesson, we were looking at the Roman baths, and we were looking at the ancient Roman baths, what was done there. We looked at the three different types that you had, the tepidarium, the caldarium. We looked at those. We looked at looking at using a stringle, and you should have filled in the information sheets with all the information that you were looking at. In today's lesson, we're carrying on with looking at the Roman baths, and we will be looking at exploring what modern day Bath is like. So your task today is going to be as follows. You're going to be choosing one of these places and creating a fact file about one of the locations. So these are famous locations that you would have found in Bath today, so you can still find them today. So we've got things like the Jane Austen Centre, the University of Bath, the Circus, Bath Abbey, and Plyne Bridge. Okay, so remember to use a sensible search engine like Kiddle to help you to do that. Right, so we're going to go through these places, and so this should give you a little bit of information that you can use in your fact file, and then you will be able to add to this and use more information that you've collected in your fact file. So Bath Abbey is the first one, and that picture that you can see is an example, well, is Bath Abbey, and this has been a place of worship on this spot for more than 1,000 years. Can you believe that? That's so long. So King Edgar, the first king of all England, was crowned here in AD 973. Bath Abbey's spectacular Victorian Gothic interior. So Gothic interior, it's the style that it's been made in. So the types of shapes you have, the columns, the detail, all of that is Gothic. That's what we call it. And it is the work of Sir George Gilbert Scott. Plyne Bridge is one of only a handful of bridges still standing with buildings atop of them. So this one actually has a building on top of it, believe it or not. And this bridge was completed in 1774, and it connected central Bath to the undeveloped land on the opposite side of the River Avon, and it's considered one of the most iconic, well-known such bridges in the world, and so much so that actually it's been in a movie. There's a very it's not a very old movie, but it's quite a well-known movie called Les Miserables, which is a French name, and it was in that film version of the story, and it was featured in that, so that's really exciting. Sallylunds House. Now, we did previously discuss Sallylunds buns before, and there's a little house, and that is a picture of it on the right-hand side there. And this dates back to 1482 and was rebuilt, so it was built up again in 1622, and it's a living museum and historic eating house, and it is famous for Sallylunds buns, and that's what we discussed in the previous lesson. So the Jane Austen Centre is another place that you can go and visit in Bath, and Jane Austen was a writer, and she wrote many books that, well, she wrote a fair amount of books that you may have heard of before, and these include Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, a book called Emma. So these are quite old books, but they are still around and people are still able to read them. So Jane Austen, as mentioned, was an English novelist. She wrote many books of romantic fiction, and her works made her one of the most famous and beloved writers in all of English literature. So literature is books that we can read, and she's one of the great masters of the English novel. So she's very well known for her writing, and her books are really famous. So Welcome to Bath, England is a place very much at the heart of Jane Austen's life and works. In the heart of the city is Jane Austen Centre, which is a permanent exhibition that explores Jane's time in Bath and the influence that this city had on her books, the characters, and her personal life. So we've also got the Therma Bath Spa. So the Therma Bath Spa is a combination of the historic spa and a contemporary building. So contemporary means slightly newer building in the city of Bath, England. Therma Bath Spa is Britain's only natural thermal spa and benefits from the warm, mineral-rich waters that the Celts and the Romans enjoyed over 2,000 years ago. Highlights include the open-air rooftop pool that has a wonderful view over the city of Bath. The Royal Crescent Circle is another thing that you can find in Bath, and that is the example there. So it is originally known as simply as the Crescent, and the street only gained its royal accolade, which is what we call it. It's now called the Royal Crescent Circle, at the end of the 18th century, following a visit from Prince Frederick, Duke of York, and Albany. The Royal Crescent is one of Bath's most iconic, so well-known landmarks, and was built between 1767 and 1775, and it was designed by John Wood the Younger. Bath became popular as a spa town in the Georgian era. Georgian architecture, which is a time period when they have different kinds of architecture and things were, they would have had different shapes, just like we have the Gothic period, you have the Georgian architecture, and crafted from Bath stone, including the Royal Crescent Circus. So, your lesson today is the following. You are going to create a fact file on one of the places that we have discussed briefly. Your research needs to include the following: a title, subheadings, a location, any key information you may want to include, and a picture of the place that you are talking about. You can create this online using Word or Paint if you would like, or you can draw and write it out. So I'm happy to have either one of these, but what I would like you to do is really do some research on the place, find some extra information about it, and make sure to either write it out neatly or type it out neatly with a spell check, and making sure that everything is neatly presented. So don't forget to share your work with us on Tapestry, and please make sure that you have it uploaded onto Tapestry by 4 p.m. this afternoon.